Hey everyone, and welcome to our presentation around returning to the office after COVID-19. Thank you all for attending, and hopefully you can all get something out of this presentation we've put together. So my name's Graham Lodge, and joining me is our Client Engagement Manager, Roland Smith. So today we're going to take you through some of the ways you can leverage technology, and in particular Microsoft Teams, and we're going to be picking up on some of the positive cultural changes that we believe have occurred in the marketplace, in the business, since the whole COVID thing turned around and it started up. We're going to be, focusing on some of the benefits of how we can use the technology to bring our people closer together and keep some of the benefits which we've seen. And despite the challenges, that we believe there's a lot of benefits to the way people are working now compared to pre-COVID. So later on in this presentation, Roland's going to take you through some hands-on demo with some of the features with Teams, some things that are relevant to your productivity that hopefully will help you in your day-to-day workplace, running meetings and those sorts of things. And if you have any questions throughout the event, feel free. There's a question Q&A box off to the right-hand side there. Feel free to post your questions as we go through. We'll schedule time at the end of this to run through any questions and hopefully help you out and go from there. So let's start with the current situation and where we see it. So even before the whole COVID and all that started down, there was remote working was a topic, and it was popular, but probably didn't have the traction that it has today. So what I've got here is a slide from Microsoft, from research they've done around how the importance of collaboration and remote working. So according to their research, 86% of leaders cite the lack of collaboration or ineffective communication as a #1 reason for workplace failures. The majority of those leaders agree that moving away from the old school hierarchical type team to a more flat, interactive team is more productive and more cohesive and just better for the overall outcomes of the team. But according to this same study, there's only 7% who say they're actually ready to implement that sort of platform. And almost 50% of leaders have or are in the process of implementing, and I dare say after COVID, it might even be more than that, the web-based collaboration solutions that allow them to scale and deliver these solutions within their companies. So, it's not a new topic. There's a lot of things that have been around for a while. But what we've seen with the COVID is, particularly over the last, let's say, 6 to 8 weeks in Australia, where people are being directed to work from home wherever possible, there's been a greater uptake and acceptance that, hey, this is valuable. Not only is it needed, it actually is more valuable and useful in a day-to-day sense than they would have ever thought. It's forced us to make decisions and consider technology and options that we might have known about before, but we weren't game, or we couldn't make the time to try them out, or we didn't want to sort of play in that space. We'll just stick with what we know. Well, this has forced us as an entire business community to step out and try this technology and use these things in a day-to-day basis. So in a way, it's accelerated what was already in motion and accelerated it in the most amazing way, that it's not just your business, it's every business, and not just your region, it's the entire globe have gone through the same cultural change within the business and the acceptance of remote working. So a key point, there's a couple of things I'll touch on. The first one, from my perspective, since all this has started, a concept that's really hit people is location is now relevant. So location, yes, you could always work from anywhere. We always had telephones. We could always join meetings. That's always been a possibility, but we've now worked effectively from home. And a lot of businesses I've spoke to, it's actually, in some ways, some things have improved. There's something about working from home or working independently that's allowed them some flexibility and freedom, and productivity has actually increased. I've been in meetings where people have joined from their back deck to their garages, bedrooms. I've often joined Teams meetings while driving in the car, transitioning between home or office as we started to transition back to work. So it's very easy to connect from anywhere, and Teams in particular is built for that. It's a cloud-based platform, obviously. It's fully integrated into Microsoft Suite, has a host of hardware partnerships that allow you to use your team solution from anywhere, from the app on your phone, the desktop client, mobiles, tablets, and later on we're going to talk more about Teams Rooms, which is what is probably going to be a bit of a recurring topic in this conversation around how do we take what we've learnt working from home and keep the positives and work it into our normal day when we move back into the office. So for me, there's a particular, this one might sound a little bit obscure to some people, but I've found since this whole work from home, there's been an increased personal touch to the communication. Now, definitely seems a bit off topic with, off kilter with people working from home as opposed to in the office. How is that more personal? Well, for some people who are in the main office or in the same office as other colleagues, maybe not quite so as much, but as a general whole, with everybody working from the same environment, everyone's experience has been the same. Video conferencing through Zoom, Google Hangouts, FaceTime, whatever it may be, people have had that presence. So when you're in a conversation, so you're in a remote meeting using Zoom or whatever else, and Teams like we are now, when you're talking, your presence is noticed. You're seen on the screen, you're visible, you're there, and you have your time in the light, if you like. You're not hidden in the corner on the end of a phone. You're actually engaged with the meeting that's going on. And there's people have been having fun with this. There's been all sorts of, you hear stories of people's spouses and partners and things doing silly things in the background, kids running in the middle of meetings, cats walking across keyboards. There's been a lot of involvement in people's personal lives in the day-to-day interactions of your workplace. So there's been a bridging between your personal space and the workspace in a controlled way. So it's not, it's not a bad thing. But more so it's that personal connection and presence that I've seen, particularly with the global acceptance of video conferencing. I personally was not a natural fan of video conferencing, wasn't someone who lent towards it as a first choice communication. Much rather prefer to sit on the end of the phone and just be engaged when I need to. But like many people, I was sort of almost forced but encouraged to leverage the video conferencing. And since I've found interacting with my own team has been much more productive. Interacting with other businesses and other clients is, again, much more productive. You're visible. You can read the room. You can read you can see if someone's connected to your conversation. You can see get more cues and things than you would in just a phone conversation where you can just put them on mute and drift off and do your own thing. So it keeps you engaged, but also you get to read the tone of whatever else is going on in those conversations. So despite being distanced, it's been a lot more personal. Now, the other factor I want to bring in is what we're calling shared experience. So in the shared experience sense, what we're saying there is similar to what I was just saying with those video conferencing. We've all had the same experience regardless of where we are. So in pre-COVID type environment, you might have had a main office in a capital city or a major centre somewhere like Townsville. Might have had satellite offices, Mackay, Emerald, Blackwater, Perth, South Australia, Sydney, whatever. You have branches, main offices, large groups of people. Then you might have people on the road and you're travelling people who just dial in phone. The old school conference was quite often it was a staff phone or some sort of speaker phone in the middle of the table, a group of people sitting around that table, and then your remote parties. There might be another small group of people around another meeting room somewhere else, and there might be a couple of individuals, maybe in the departure lounge at the airport, or people, just at a client side or transiting between work or having to work from home because the child's sick or whatever it may be. So everyone has had different experiences. Those people in the main room have been able to talk across the table, ask questions about what's going to happen in that meeting, share paperwork, pass papers around the room and discuss it. Say, look, here's the proposal we're going to talk through. Do you want to have a quick look before I read it out? You can interact with those people. You might have a subset of people in another meeting room somewhere else, and they're doing the same thing, but disconnected from the main conversation. And then you might have some individuals who are dialed in who are just hearing half of two conversations, just totally zoned out and not really fully connected to what's happening inside that meeting. So how do we keep the gains of that personal interaction and that shared experience where we've all had the same thing, good, bad, or indifferent? We've shared documents the same way, whether it be through email, we've all opened the same email and had the same access to content. We've all downloaded the same stuff. We've all been involved and interacted in a meeting the exact same. There hasn't been a group in the boardroom and a group in the satellite office and a group, individuals sitting, out on their own in the home offices, whatever else. We've all had the exact same experience. So what does Teams do to keep that experience now that we're moving back into these small groups and things like that? So they've got a concept called Teams Rooms that takes the whole Teams concept but takes it to a room level. So Teams Rooms, it's a product, it's a device that centralizes in your environment. The whole solution is scalable. It'll work with your existing equipment. You can get a simple Teams Room device that plugs into your hardware, existing webcam if you've got one, plugs into your existing TV, all those things, or you can get a special Teams camera and plug it into your existing laptop and join Teams off your exact laptop, or you can get the whole system and get the desktop device, fancy microphone, speakers and arrays. Entirely scalable. You don't have to do the whole room up. You can just literally buy components and implement them. And there's a whole host of technology out there. And from a whole range of providers, and a lot of it can be mix and match depending on what your environment is, what you already have, where your budget sits. One of the advantages, just leaning on, going back to that personal touch, a lot of these solutions have like an audio detection type scenario. So when we were talking before, everyone had their personal space. So when you were talking, you had your own box. For intensive purposes, you've got a display, you're sitting there on the screen. When you talk, you get brought, prominent on the screen. So you get engaged. People can see who's talking, people see what's going on. If you maybe had an old school conference room, maybe you had a little web camera poking in the corner, shining down on your boardroom table, and there's, you've seen the back of 3 people's heads and maybe just see a couple other people's faces. But you can't, and you might be able to hear what's going on because there might be a microphone in the middle of the desk, but you're not fully engaged in what's going on. With these set systems, and they're not that expensive, the cameras can actually auto detect voice, and obviously depending on the quality and how much you're willing to spend, they detect your face and you can zoom in and you automatically zoom in and pick up those faces. So you retain that personal conversation. So someone at one side of the table is talking, the camera will pan to that person and make them front and center of the conversation. So those not in that room get the facial expressions and the experience that the others in the room are getting. And the same, so it just brings that same experience through that everyone else is experiencing. So the other side, with all that sort of same experience, a big driver that's dropped off the back of all that is the uptake of cloud technology, just as a whole. A lot more people using cloud platforms, obviously Microsoft Teams and SharePoint, email. But there's also other solutions you've got there around, Dropbox and Zoom and Google Documents, and there's a whole heap of platforms and options that are in play that people have become comfortable using. Businesses are starting to use, maybe they're using an ERP system or a finance package, and they'd thought about cloud before, and this has sort of forced them to make the decision to try it. And now they've tried the cloud platforms. Yeah, there's certainly some limitations compared to maybe sitting in the office, but I think what a lot of people are realizing is a lot of the benefits are outweighing some of the benefits, the negatives, and you've just got to learn to work around the system. And the ultimate flexibility and everything else that comes with that far outweighs some of the challenges of maybe a slightly slower load time for an initial document or something like that. So I think that sort of outlines the picture, and I'm not going to take too much more time just talking about that. I want to get on to Roland and give you a bit of a demo. Just before I do, we're just going to play a quick little video from Microsoft just to, again, just reinforce the team's flexibility, the ability to work anywhere, and then bringing in that rooms concept. How do you bring that environment into the Teams room setup? So thank you all, and I'll pass you over the video.
Modernize your meetings and work like you're in one place with Microsoft Teams Rooms. Teams meetings are simple to schedule. In Outlook, just press the Teams meeting button to turn your meeting into a Teams meeting. Microsoft Teams Rooms replaces your conference phone and adds an HD audio-video experience to your meeting rooms. With just one touch, join a Teams meeting and instantly connect with every participant. Take control of your meeting by managing the attendee roster and functions, like muting participants' microphones. You can join a Teams meeting from anywhere, whether you're in the office or on the go. Display wirelessly to easily project content both in the room and to remote participants. Or use your mobile device to easily share and drive content into the Teams meeting. Add other colleagues to your meeting from the directory or by calling their phone number. Microsoft Teams rooms from leading device manufacturers work in a wide range of room sizes, from huddle spaces to large conference rooms. Microsoft Teams rooms. Transform every meeting.
Just in case everyone don't know, well, look, my name is Roland, Roland Smith. I am the client manager at Marriott Services. So I would be the point of contact if you have any questions or any technical or requirements moving forward. But look, today I just want to give you more of a overview of overview demo, a high-level overview demo of what Teams is and how we use it and how we're seeing the market take advantage of the tools itself. Now, and I'm sure many of you are in the same boat as us, and that is you have meetings, whether if it's a daily meeting, weekly, monthly, doesn't matter. You have meetings, right? And it could be meetings with people in the office. You could have satellite offices for us as Mackay and Cairns, and then you've got the individuals that are out and about, like the salespeople on the road, or the technicians that is on customer site, or that director who's always at the airport. Okay, so as Graham pointed out, it doesn't really matter where they are. Location is irrelevant anymore, because with Teams, everybody is on the same platform. They have the same footing and the same shared experience. And the beauty of Teams is that you can have meetings on multiple devices. Okay, so you've got your mobile, you've got tablets, you've got desktops, laptops, and Graham's already pointed out Teams rooms. So you're making that one particular room become part of that Teams environment. So there again, so location just becomes irrelevant. So because you can work from anywhere, you also want to make sure that you can hide your background. And I'm sure, like most of you, we're probably all working from home. So one of the cool features that Teams also has is the ability for you to change your background. So just to give you an example, and I'm just changing it on the fly right now. So I'm currently working, well, today I feel like I might want to work from Microsoft Office, or maybe tomorrow I might want to work out in space. I don't know, or maybe at the beach. Doesn't really matter. Or if you want to be like Graham, you want to look professional and have a company logo at the back, you can do that. You can do that as well. But for me, I kind of just prefer this room here, which is very slick and nice. And I wish it was actually what my room looks like, but it is what it is. Yeah. So again, there's so many cool tools that you can do. You can make custom background if you wanted to. Now, one of the other features that I do also like about Teams is the fact that you can record the meetings. Now, if you're like me, because you're, like you have that important sales call halfway through the meeting, you don't want to miss out, right? So you'll step out. But the beauty is that the meeting is recorded, so you can actually refer back to it at any time you want. So anybody that couldn't make the meeting or joined halfway or left halfway, they still have that capability. Just give me a second. I'm just making sure I share my screen soon. Alrighty, so again, when you're in the office, in the boardroom, say boardroom scenario, normally you like to have a little bit of a chat among the team, having a chat to the person in front of you or beside you. You can still do the same thing within the actual Teams itself, and you do this simply by just opening up the chat. Having a chat with Jess or Ben, or that's the regular people that we have a chat with, and this is where you can share files and information, just like how you would be in the actual physical environment, where you would grab a piece of paper and share it around within the actual group itself and still continue that conversation. So you can have a private chat, or you can have a general chat within the actual team itself. And I'm sure you have scenarios where you need to have that one particular person join you as well. Okay, so normally in a office environment, you would walk out and tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, listen, would you mind joining my team, joining this meeting? I need you to, get on board. Now, you can do the same thing with Teams as well. And you simply do that by going through chat. For us, it's Ben all the time. He's our MacGyver, our go-to guy that we always have. So you could simply, for me anyway, I'll say, hey, can you join this meeting? And I'll ping him. And we'll just wait for him to respond. Hopefully he will. All right, cool. Looks like he's gonna see it. So again, it's just like shoulder tapping Ben as if you're in the office. Okay, cool, sweet. So we're just gonna go back and bring him in to the meeting. So I would just find him, Ben, and calling. So that's simple. Find Ben, calling, and when he picks up, boom. Just like shoulder tapping him in the office. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Roland. How you going? Hey, Graham.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, there's Graham as well. We're just doing a quick demo, so I hope you don't mind. Just giving you a quick buzz and just demonstrating how easy it is to actually shoulder tap somebody in Teams and just get them into the conversation. So so just a quick demo showing them what it is like. So
Yeah,
don't
no
really.
dramas.
So I don't really need you here for that long. So if you want to go, you can go.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Alrighty, sweet. So again, that simple, that easy, it's very quick, efficient. At first, it can be a little bit, tricky because you don't know where everything is, but as you start to use it and you get feel comfortable with it, it's very, very easy to use. Now, let me just share. Okay, so this is the Microsoft Whiteboard. Now, traditionally, everybody in the office will have a whiteboard of some sort. Now, the downside to the whiteboard in the office, of course, is that the people joining in, whether it, like from the satellite office or on the road, like the director, they won't be able to interact or see what's going on. And you have that awkward, hey, can you show us what you're actually writing? Now, the beauty of Microsoft Whiteboard or digital whiteboard is that you can actually load it straight from the Teams itself. Everyone can see what's actually happening on the whiteboard. And you can actually have people joining in on your whiteboard as well. So in this case, I preloaded Graham already, so he can interact with me, okay? So just like a normal whiteboard, you'll grab a pen, you'll start drawing on it. I'm just gonna quickly draw a quick graph, $ and time. And this is ultimately what Graham wants us to have in terms of sales, but what's your thoughts so far, Graham?
Yeah, it's probably looking more like that with the COVID going on, mate. So you probably need to get back onto it.
Yeah, so as you can see, he interacted with, within the actual board itself. Now, if you're like me and you're terrible with handwriting, you probably want to, there we go, he's highlighting as I'm working on the actual whiteboard itself. So if you're terrible like me in handwriting, you might want to, use this. Again, it's just an example. Or you want to put some notes on there, notes here. Again, Graham can easily interact with that as well. So you can have multiple people joining in on the conversational, on the whiteboard demonstration. Now, another cool feature I really want to show you is this one here. It's the ability for you to bring up images or image files. So I've just got this little image here. How cool is that? Something you cannot really do on a traditional whiteboard is obviously bring up images like that and then expand it. Now this is just what we want our office to look like. This is where Graham wants his office, but I'm thinking more towards this. But of course he likes to have...
I'll take this one, but we can set up a bit of a Teams room here, put a camera up here, boardroom there, I think will be good.
Cool. So again, very interactive. Everybody's involved, doesn't matter where you are. Again, everyone can actually see what's actually happening. So no one's missing out on any information, which is what you want to achieve. Now, what generally happens after that? Somebody will pull out the phone and take a photo, and fingers crossed that they'll send the picture or the information out to everybody, You don't have to worry about that anymore with Whiteboard, digital whiteboard with Microsoft. You can simply export it or post it on the team. So again, anybody could refer back to it whenever they like. Okay, so no information is lost. Everyone has the same point of contact. Information is all in the same area. So very, very easy to use. Okay, so before I hand you off to Graham, what I'll do is I just want to show you another video from Microsoft. This is just to, I guess, give you more of another overview of what's actually capable, what is actually coming, and Microsoft is constantly working on new tools and features to really make our lives as, collaborating a lot easier. So what I'll do is I'll just show you this video and then I'll hand you off to Graham. Okay.
Meetings in today's modern workplace don't just happen in a conference room. They're collaborative sessions with teams around the world. With Microsoft Teams Rooms, we're bringing some tech magic to your meetings to enable your teams to work like they're all in one place, regardless if they attend in person or remotely. And getting started is easy. Just grab the first conference room you find open and use Proximity Join to connect to a Microsoft Teams Room device. While in the room, you might want to focus on a specific attendee in the meeting. Just pin the video from the console to put the speaker on full screen. Beyond video, we want to make sure people who join remotely also feel included with brainstorming happening in the room. And while we can already do that with a digital whiteboard, many meeting rooms utilize a physical whiteboard. The new content camera is able to intelligently find, crop, and zoom in to create a full screen experience. But there's more. Those creative thoughts and ideas can now be digitized and brought into a collaborative experience for everyone involved. So not being physically in the room is no longer a limitation. Even if someone walks in front of the whiteboard, remote participants continue to see right through them, and any progress is continuously captured to keep everyone engaged. Before, collaboration on the whiteboard was limited to people in the room, and information couldn't flow and remained trapped. Now, even when sharing your notes and brilliant ideas on a whiteboard, meetings can be an inclusive experience for every participant, no matter where they are. Work like you're all in one place with Microsoft Teams Rooms.
Thanks for that, Roland. I'm just going to get something ready. So just with this, so with the benefits of what we're talking about here with the Microsoft Rooms and the Microsoft Teams as a whole is, what does it mean to your business? So Microsoft have a concept around Teams that it's a total, it has a full life cycle. It's not just a meeting platform. So it's not just a Zoom meeting or a FaceTime call or something like that. It has a lot more content to it. So in a traditional sense, if you're using an independent platform like you're just using FaceTime or Google Hangouts or one of those other video platforms, you're having your meeting, you're communicating, you're in the meeting, and that's great. But then you're keeping your notes somewhere else. You might be saving them up to SharePoint, dropping them into OneDrive and copying them up. You might be throwing them in Dropbox. You could be doing anything with those files. You might just be keeping them locally and remembering to email them to everyone at the end of that meeting. Microsoft brings this all together, and I'll run through a quick demo after I've explained this. But so they've got, in this life cycle, the first stage is obviously before the meeting. What happens before the meeting, where you're going to chat with people, you're going to message people, you're going to ask people what's going on. Hey, you coming? Have you got your stuff you need? Is there anything else you need for that meeting? So you'll send messages and chat back and forth. You might be sharing documents and saying, hey, I've done this up. Is it any good? Can someone have a look? The presentation's been up there on the team site. Can someone just review it and make sure I haven't made any major mistakes? You can review the content. Maybe you go back and you look at the minutes of the last meeting. All that preparation content is in the same place. During the meeting, obviously, we've just demoed that. So you're in the meeting, you're talking, you're sharing information. You can co-author documents. So just like we did with the whiteboard then, you can do the same thing with any Microsoft product. So, Word, Excel, you can co-author them, jump in, have multiple people editing. Roland and I obviously do this quite frequently. I do it with clients. We jump on, we use the same Word documents. We put line, filling in. I might be filling in one section, and I can see, with those icons you saw before, you can see who's filling in what, and that people are, interacting and working on the one document. I'm not working on my document, Roland working his, and another person working theirs, emailing them all back together. It's one document and it's saved in the team. So we're all opening the same document, working off the same document, and co-editing the same document. And you can open that document on the web. So if you're on someone else's laptop or you're out and about, or you can actually open it in your local Word as well. There's a link to that. And the Microsoft platform, being a fully integrated platform, will keep those documents in sync. You'll be working in a normal Word document as you're comfortable doing. It'll be syncing back up to that, into that single document. And then you can participate in that meeting wherever you like, as we've covered off plenty of times during this. It doesn't matter. You can join off your mobile phone, join off your laptop, computer, whatever it may be. It's completely independent. Then after the meeting, there's all those things. So that photo of the whiteboard that someone took and forgot to share and wasn't quite in focus, you've got a copy of the actual whiteboard sitting there. If you recorded the meeting, that recording could be in that same site. Any documents that were, maybe someone jumped into the team chat. So you have a chat related to that meeting. Someone shared a document in that chat and everyone's seeing that same document. That's there. The history is all there in your team site. So you don't lose any information. Everything is there from, the meeting's no longer now in a single moment in time. The whole meeting is now an event before, during, and after, and the whole lot is captured in Teams. So I'm just going to give you a quick demo now, just to show you some of these things very briefly, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. What I've got here, fairly typical team site. So team sites they're a SharePoint site is technically what they are, but they're a site where you can share and collaborate. You can create a team for any team. So you can create a team for a department or a group. It might be a project team you've put together. You might be planning to open a new office in Emerald or something, and you've gone ahead and you've planned it, and you've got different parties involved. You've got some procurement people involved, some management, some finance. They can all be part of this team, regardless of what their typical org chart team is. It's independent. You can spin these teams up very quickly and have them as needed. The content of the teams, think about it, I suppose this front page here is probably more like a Facebook type of scenario. You put posts up there, you can tag people in there. So you can tag people, like I can create a post here and tag Roland. I can bring in a team. So, and the whole purpose of getting tagged is no different to, is no different to tagging someone in a Facebook. They get an alert saying, hey, a post's been put up there that's relevant to you. You've either been mentioned for a reason. I've seen this work very well for you're working with your staff to share compliments and progress and achievements. So you can just post it up there and say, hey, finance team, great work getting that proposal out, or whatever it may be, and draw attention and share stuff publicly. No different to, like I said, social media platforms that we're all familiar with, but kept in the context of work and related to your day-to-day job. Files, this is where, like I said, you can store your files. If this was a site for a meeting, maybe it was a stand-up meeting we had for a particular project. In here, we could have our agendas and all that sort of stuff sitting there, throw the minutes there. We can save a recording, put folders in here, the same as anywhere else, and just store all your data. It's in the same place. You can open documents from here in the team meeting. So we're in a team meeting now, and I'm in the team site. So it's completely independent of the meeting itself. You don't have to close the meeting down and go get your files. It's all interactive. And if you've got, so say you are fully deployed, you're using SharePoint and everything else. So the collaborative side of Teams is exactly that. It's a collaborative platform. You can invite external parties. You can invite multiple people. So, but you might be, say you're working, like I said, on that business relocation project, you're looking to set up a new office in another location. So you got various parts of the business as a member of that team, but you want to link some documentation that's only relevant to certain people. So you might have some finance documentations around the budget, for example, for that project. You don't want everyone on that team to see it. So that document can sit within SharePoint. So SharePoint, this is all SharePoint, but SharePoint as your traditional SharePoint is the back-end engine that has all the security and controls, and it's much more granular in the way it can be managed and secured and corporately controlled through policies and those sorts of things. So you have your network drive for, using the old term sake, so it might be your drive where your finance data sits or your HR data sits, and it's typically secured to those teams. Well, that happens in SharePoint. So you can have a team a collaborative team that's open to a whole host of different people, but then you can link a SharePoint site that is locked down to a particular subset of that team. And those files in that SharePoint site would be locked down and only visible to those who have access to them. So they're relevant to that project, but they're not relevant to everyone else in that team. So by being in SharePoint linked to the team site, you can now make those documents available, but keep them in their secure place. Keep them where your governance is, where your business keeps their business critical information, and the team just surfaces that information where it's relevant. And if there was documents in there that are okay to share, only authorised people could then take those documents and put them into the common file area where everyone will see it. So you might have a summary of the total budget for certain people to see, or maybe a budget without pricing, so people can sort of see the items that need to go in there or things like that. You can do that, but the key point is your corporate data stays where it's supposed to be with whatever governance or control, but it's surfaced up into this team. And it can be surfaced up into many teams. So it's completely independent of how that works. So that's just a high-level overview of how Teams works as a platform. So what does all this mean to your business? There's lots of different things to it. So there's some cool technology we've shown you. There's some topics we've spoken about, some ideas and concepts, and they're all great in themselves and they sound interesting. But what does it mean to you as a business? How are they going to benefit you moving forward? So some of these habits that we've spoken about and techniques and behaviours, for me, are going to add immense value to your business if you can embrace them and keep them in your workplace moving forward. So the concept of remote working, flexibility, reduction in travel costs. So if we just break some of these down, if we take the obvious one, the pure dollar saving in travel, travel's not going to go away. There's still a need to be in front of people, but there may not need to be as much. I mean, me personally, I'd probably travel. I'd be in Brisbane 1-2 times a month, maybe Perth, maybe Sydney, all over the place, depending what was going on. And for the last 8 weeks, I haven't gone anywhere. And other than missing a few social events, I haven't been disconnected from the team at all. I've been part of everything that's been going on. Does that mean travel should stop? No, but you can be much more selective about it, and where it's appropriate and where it's inconvenient, you don't need to travel. And so that leads to another point. If you talk about personal satisfaction, so particularly in regional areas, so I'm based in Mackay, but you've got, in those regional centres, Mackay, Townsville, Rocky, Cairns, those sort of places, it's not uncommon to do a day trip to Brisbane for a client meeting or for a vendor presentation, or just if you've got an office there, to spend the day there. So that day would typically look like, up at 5 for a 6 a.m. flight, or up at 4 for a 6 a.m. flight. Trip by the time you got to the airport, through security, flown to Brisbane, back out into an Uber to the office, quick bite to eat, join a 2 or 3 hour meeting, back to the airport. Maybe you get a bit of work done. Maybe you fly long enough to get a lounge and be able to do some work there, or maybe you're just sitting in the terminal for an hour and a half, and then you eventually fly home. Maybe you're back in your own home 8 o'clock at night. That's like a 14-hour day or more for a 4-hour meeting. So you take all that out of the equation. You've now got a person who's more efficient. They've attended the meeting they needed to attend. They haven't just attended it, they've participated in the meeting. They've been engaged. They've been able to contribute and work on the whiteboard. They've had a similar experience to those who are able to make the meeting in person. So it's not that you eliminate it, but you don't miss out if you can't make it. But then let's take that down to day-to-day benefits, just focusing on that efficiency side of thing around the individual's well-being. So I've seen in the workplaces I've been working in that efficiency has almost increased. People have been, as they've adapted and picked up the flexible and working from home, they've found ways to adapt their work life into their personal life in a way that makes them more effective. Simple scenario would be like partner's crook or whatever it may be, and you've got to take your child to school. So I've often got a stand-up meeting at 7 a.m. So I can do that meeting from home, join that meeting, participate, be part of that meeting, and be fully productive in that meeting, close off the meeting, jump in the car, take my daughter to school, and be at the office by 9:30, 10 o'clock, ready for whatever else the day has ahead of me. I've been able to participate and do my job. I've been able to work out my personal situation, and I've lost no productivity. Another scenario might be the other end of the day. So I work with a lot of clients with an international presence and things like that. So I have a lot of meetings, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. But I don't get a break before those. I've got to get the afternoon full to lead up to that. So what you can do is fill those gaps with, be more flexible about how you do that with the ability to be flexible working. So I'll often, if I've got a run of those meetings, I'll leave work around lunchtime or maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I've got a gap between meetings or processes. And then I'll do the rest of my day-to-day catch-ups meetings from home using Teams, fully interacting, accessing the documents and working with those people. But then at the end of my last meeting at 8, 9 o'clock at night, I'm at home. I'm not getting in the car and driving home. I'm already home. I've just taken a half hour back into my day that wasn't there. And if you're in a major centre, that half hour can be an hour, 2 hours. So the benefits go far beyond the raw dollars of saving your travel costs. Another high level one that I've heard some very large businesses talk about doing is reducing the overall capacity in the office, move to a bit of a mix of permanent and hot desking. So maybe allow for up to 10, 15% of the workforce to work permanently remotely and just have a presence where they can come in and sit. So you can potentially save on rent or electricity and all the costs that come with having people in the office. So that for me sums up where the benefits are. It's about the presence for people to be more comfortable in their job, more flexible around their personal work-life balance, be more connected to their employees, to their colleagues, be more socially engaged, be more connected. Our Mackay Brisbane teams have always worked really strong together, but in the last 6 to 8 weeks, they've actually interacted at a much closer level. There's no inside jokes in Brisbane, inside jokes in Mackay. They're now communicating at the same level in that shared experience. So they're happier. There's more flexibility. That some of those flexible scenarios I've laid out, and there's many that'll suit your personal situation where this technology can enable you and your staff to find a more healthy work-life balance, which ultimately ends up in more productivity, which actually ends up making your business stronger. So with that, I'd like to just bring this formal part to a close. Thank you all for joining. I'm just going to pass back to Roland just to run through some questions that have come through. And so we'll be happy to answer those. So if you've got any other questions, feel free to drop them in now, and we'll be able to share some of this content at the end of all this once it's recorded and sorted out. So thank you all, and thanks, Roland.
Thank you very much for that, Graham. Alrighty, thank you so much, everyone, for attending the webinar. Look, we do actually have a few questions. One of them is, two of them actually, is from, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, please accept my apology if I am actually pronouncing it incorrectly, for Florencia. So the first question, I'll probably point that to you, Graham. It's in regards to files. So the question is, I also have another question with the files. Do others, can they access these files, and how to set privacy to those files? So basically it's just around the security around the files and the ability to access the files from external or internal. How is that?
Yep. So within the team itself, the files are locked to the membership of that team as a base rule. You can set up private channels and things, and there's new features coming out in Teams all the day. But the general concept of Teams is everything in that team is available to the team. So that's the logic behind it. But it is also secured to that team. So people outside that team don't have access to those files. If you're looking at more granular level of security and things, and that's where I'd be strongly recommending linking to SharePoint and stuff like that. So if you've got, like I said, finance or HR data, you store it in your library within SharePoint and link that and surface that up into your team site. So then you can then access and control that data more securely and more granularly. Because the other risk within teams is, depending on who you make administrators or owners of those teams, they can invite people to that team. You need to be aware that to control not only the content of the team, but who has the ability to invite people to those teams, because you can restrict whether you can invite people from outside the company to that team, which is quite beneficial when you're working in collaboration with a partner or a client, but you may want to restrict that. So you just need to make sure that the people are trained and know what they're doing, so they're not potentially exposing your data. But if you want to be ultimately sure that your data is secured, keep it in a SharePoint secured and properly set up site, and then you surface that up into your team site. So no matter who that team site is shared to, your normal corporate governance is applying to those data, so no one else can access it who shouldn't access it. So you're not lessening the access to that control and effectively giving up control of your data. So Yeah, it is an interesting one. I'll keep going with this on Roland if you like, and go on to the next one. Is how do we bring up the whiteboard? Couple of different ways. It can be accessed directly from within Teams. So we're in a Teams meeting event here, so we have different functionality to what you do in a normal two-way meeting. This is a one-way direction, so some of those limitations around the features directly in Teams aren't quite the exact same. But the way we demonstrate it was also you can open up Whiteboard as a standalone. So you can download it through 365. It's a standalone application, so you can launch it directly from within Teams. So you go share, and you'll have a whiteboard sharing option, or you can actually download the Whiteboard app and open that, and then from within Whiteboard itself, you can invite participants. So what that means is you don't have to use Teams to interact with it. You can actually have a whiteboard, and someone's rung you on your mobile phone, you can still be talking through the same whiteboard and clicking and working away. So it doesn't have to be in a Teams meeting, but it is beneficial.
There's a few more questions in there. I'm sure you can probably see. Cameron asked, how long does it take to move to Teams? And then the follow-up question from Cameron is, and once you're there, how do I manage the creation of Teams?
Okay, so I'll tie those two together. So how long does it take to move to Teams? Well, depends. If you're on Office 365, you've already got Teams. That's a bit of a given. But having Teams and using Teams are two different things. So if you've already got Office 365, now I'll make a distinction there. So when I'm saying Office 365, I'm talking about the Microsoft 365 or the full Office 365 suite. So that's one that includes your email system. There's a lot of confusion, and Microsoft's done a lot to fix up their naming recently, but it is very recent. A lot of people, when they hear Office 365, they think of Office, so Word, Excel, Outlook. Yes, that is Office 365. There's no doubt of that. That's not the Office 365 we're talking about. That's part of it. So when you talk about Office 365, we're talking about, so the Office, they've just renamed the titles again, but the small business and the business premium, enterprise E1s and E3. So these are all-encompassing licenses that either have online or online and offline content. So those packages, and they start relatively cheap. I mean, your Business Essentials, which is now, I think, Microsoft Basic in the new language, it's about $7 or $8 a month, which includes no offline content, but it includes all your Teams, Exchange, so that's all your email, Outlook, connectivity, and Teams and SharePoint. I think it's a terabyte per person or something. So you've already got the license, so it's just a case of start using it. If you don't have licensing now, there's actually some good news there as well. Microsoft have got, there is a Teams free option. So if you're using, maybe you've still got an on-premise Exchange server, maybe using Gmail or some other product for your email, you can actually use the free Teams option. It does have limitations with space. I think it's like 10 gig or something it's limited to. But you can get Teams for free for businesses up to 300 odd. But also due to COVID, Microsoft have also got I think a 6-month trial of the full version of Teams. So you can sign up for X number of licenses, free for 6 months. I would have to check. There's probably a 12-month commitment in there. I don't have the detail on that.
No, that's correct. 12 months commitment in there.
There you go. So deploying that sort of stuff, it's as quick as firing up the license. That's purely for Teams. If you want to start being creative with that, then there's a bit more work involved around, if you want to integrate with build some SharePoint backends and workflows. There's heaps of creative stuff you can do, but straight out of the box, it's literally a couple of days. So how long does it take to move to Teams? Same thing. So how do you manage the creation of Teams? It's within the team environment itself. It's just right click, create new team. If you've got to have the permissions and privileges, and it's not quite as quick, but almost as quick as creating a new folder in a file server. It's that quick. You create the team, you assign the permissions, and the team's there ready to go. So creating a new team, I requested a new team the other day for the service team, and it was nearly up by the time I'd finished a follow-up email. So it literally 5 minutes if you know what you're doing. So yeah, not long at all.
This one here is more of a technical question, Graham. I don't know whether if we want to do it here or take it offline. It's how can we unlink how can I unlink my OneDrive to Teams?
A couple of ways. I suppose one obvious way is probably just to log out of it. you can actually log out of the OneDrive. But there are settings, and yeah, it's probably a bit hard to go into all the detail over this call, but there are definitely settings in the OneDrive client where you can define what is synced and what isn't synced. You could have multiple SharePoint libraries, multiple teams, and you can pick and choose what you, from that client that's normally down in the bottom right-hand corner. There are a lot of tools there you can choose to manipulate that stuff. But OneDrive can be quite powerful in some things. It does give you the ability to work 100% offline, not just remote. So,
is that the same as what? Same question. Sorry, I meant unlink OneDrive from Teams. So I'm assuming you answered that as well.
Yes, to unlink it, you've got to go and disconnect from the OneDrive client. So OneDrive is an extension of SharePoint. Teams is built on SharePoint, and there's configurations within the OneDrive client as to what you do and don't connect to.
Cool.
Right. One that I actually had earlier that I meant to sort of throw out, there's, I was just talking to someone before this, I meant to see this one through, was the Teams rooms setup. What does it cost to get into that Teams room environment? The fact is it's pretty cheap to start it off. You can start with just a Teams room device. I think the cheaper ones probably come in around around $1,000 mark, maybe $1,500 for a Teams room device, up to $2,500, $3,000 for a more intricate device. And that's essentially it's a computer that's pre-configured with Teams that allows that room to join the meeting. But then that's just the Teams room. And as I said before, it's modular, so you don't have to use the Teams room. You can actually use cameras and those sorts of things. There's Teams devices. There's a Logitech one that I've used in the Mackay office. It's an all-in-one. It's about $1,500. Microphone, speaker, has the auto face detection, all that sort of stuff. And you literally plug that into the HDMI cable directly, plug it straight into your computer with a USB cable, and then plug your computer directly into your TV or projector or whatever you've got, and your Teams room is up and running straight away. So it can be quite cheap, and then you go right through to the fully integrated Teams rooms. You can go up to, depends how fancy you want to be, ceiling array microphones and all sorts of stuff. So lots of options.
I think that's pretty much all the other questions that's come through. Is there anything else that we've missed out, that common questions that we had? I think that's pretty much it, isn't it? The other common questions is, will it cost? Well, I think you've covered it. How long will it take to deploy it? So in that case, Graham, look, maybe a question from me to you is, okay, so if a team doesn't have, if a business doesn't have, say, Microsoft Teams up and running, they're using, say, Zoom or Skype or whatever it may be, but they really want to take advantage of, say, Microsoft Teams. How long will it take for them to get up and running, like fully utilizing Teams? Obviously, that's what we can do, but how long will it take?
It comes down to where you are in your cycle. So if you're already using 365 for your email, for example, then it's a matter of days. If you're starting from scratch and you're migrating from another system, so Gmail or an on-prem Exchange, let's say 1 to 2 weeks. To do it properly with the governance and a bit of control to make sure you're not just throwing your staff into a bit of a mess. You're managing that process through, and that's the way we like to approach it. It's not a here's the system, see you later. We like to get things across, help you develop some controls and governance, and identify how those systems should be utilised properly.
No, fair call on that. I guess the last thing you want to do is set up something quickly and the teams don't really use it, and then it defeats the whole purpose of fully utilizing a powerful platform. I think that's pretty much all the questions that's come through, and the questions from me, I guess. So what I'll do is I'll probably leave the other questions at that. Is there anything else that you want to add on to that, Graham, at all? Or?
No, just thanks everyone for joining. So we're keen to get going from there. So thank you.
Yeah, no worries. All right, well, look, I just want to say, thank you so much for everyone attending our webinar. It is our first, but it's definitely not going to be our last. We are wanting to do more of this in the future, and just more informative, more interactive, live events like this. So what I'll do is I'll send you my details to anybody that, everyone that attended here. So I'll shoot out a quick information detail of myself. So if anybody has any questions or would like to discover a little bit more, please feel free to reach out. I'll shoot a quick email to you, as well as a link to this webinar as well. So if you want to share it or watch it again, you can do so. But otherwise, yeah, look, on behalf of myself and Graham and Marriott Services, thank you so much for attending, and stay safe out there. Talk to you later.